So I'd like to, on that first slide, just let you know that Dave Gasker has been providing us with a lot of content for our education. And so a lot of these fabulous drone shots are his, including our opening title slide. This is a graphic to show a summary in map form of our delivery. So the red spots are education points and the yellow is outreach. And we've really been working hard to cover gaps in the catchment. So you're seeing a map that shows the delineation of the watershed. So it's the whole catchment in OS form. And I'd really like to sort of just talk a little bit about it. So you can see right up in the northwest corner, Jen has been working hard to include Morton and really been targeting that and had some great success. And I'll let her talk a bit more about a couple of the projects up there. We also had very high numbers at Morton Show. You know, we targeted that this year. Going down the spots that are out of the catchment in the southeast corner of the map represent the take up from schools in Oxford, particularly at Combe Mill. And so we've got really good coverage now of schools in Oxford. And you can see that across primary and secondary schools within the catchment, we've got really broad area coverage. So I think that that represents a success as we fill in areas that we realise we hadn't managed to target in our first year. In terms of what we're, the sort of general outline of what we're doing, clearly we're offering education sessions in both science and geography. I think it's really important that the partnership understands that sadly, within the syllabus, there is no requirement for secondary schools to take their science pupils in biology, chemistry or physics outside the classroom. And so most of our science delivery is to primary, and pond dipping continues to be our favourite of all sessions. So there's some other things that we're doing on science. Geography at GCSE and A level is proving to be a great hit. And I think it's important that we are providing a sustainable option for schools, some of whom were driving in a single day from Oxford to Lulworth Cove in a 6-hour round trip to do their fieldwork. They're now driving 20 minutes to Combe Mill and coming to us. So we're building on that, and we have literally hundreds. I think I've got 560 kids already booked in for 2024 to do geography, river surveying at Combe Mill. Duke of Edinburgh, Rowan will talk more about that later. Community outreach, I think we're really broadening our offering there too. Clearly, we're doing fairs, festivals, shows, lots of guided walks. Jen's arrival has really kick-started extra focus on citizen science and a lot of the slightly more campaigning side of things. And we're also much stronger on social media now. In terms of the school sessions, you can see the range of things here. The left-hand slide shows me pointing at the beauty that is this fabulous viewpoint at Combe Mill. We're doing a catchment walk as part of a day there, and the pupils get to do field sketches. We have used Thames Water money to buy a lot of waders so that we can really get all the kids in to the river without lots of soggy socks onto coaches at the end of the day. We're offering primary schools bug hunting and lovely meadow-based things, and really talking about how everything that the pupils do within their valley system is ultimately going to impact the river. And that, combined with work on water quality and looking at inverts through kick sampling, is really reaping benefits, I think. It's a very joined up approach, and we can deliver that all in a day. The schools are often walking from their primary school to the river. So again, really reducing the cost of coaches and also the environmental impact of vehicle miles. And then on the right hand side, again, using the waders, you can see us doing a walk where we're actually walking up the stream with some pupils who were off main curriculum because they'd been disruptive, I think, in class. And we did all sorts of things, and we made damper on a fire, and we talked about the river, and it was really hands-on. So we're doing specialist sessions for groups that need sort of specially organised things. In terms of the feedback and stats, we've been working very hard to really listen to the professionals who we're going out to. And at the end of every single one of our sessions, we have a feedback learning evaluation form. And we have then modified sessions based on that written feedback. And we've gone from 95% in 2022 to 98% complete satisfaction with our provision. So clearly I'm pretty delighted with that. We are getting lovely comments back, both from the children, and that certainly their feedback is as important to us as the teachers. And in terms of the stats, so throughout the project, which has now been running just under 2 years, we have gone out to 1,789 school children across all our schools. We've reached out to 155 in the more difficult to target 16 to 25-year-old range. And you can see we've gone over 3,000 people we've engaged with on outreach. We're involving more of the Cotswold wardens, and so we're building towards a legacy by getting the wardens' confidence up, really involving them in a lot of our sessions, and they're now delivering little bits of some of those sessions. So I'm hoping that by the end of July 2025, they might feel confident to do work with schools. So if we train up the teachers and we have a volunteer force, we're looking to produce a legacy programme. So that brings me neatly on to looking ahead. I'm working hard to produce a catchment tour, which will both be an online resource and an actual series of guides in terms of where teachers might take pupils across the catchment. This is targeted very much at A level, but we're also have borrowed from the EA the M River table. So we're going to be able to demonstrate in a hall environment where at Burford School, where we hope to bring in local secondary schools that will go out to multiple secondary schools, the formation of a stage zero landscape. And we're also hoping to use Atkins Lego model so we can compare natural flood management to hard engineering. And as part of that session, we're also going to have hands-on experimentation around the 3 Ps, which is the poo, pee and paper. So informing the children how they can themselves impact water quality issues in terms of what they flush down the loo, and then going on to water quality more generally and talking about those issues so that we have a day where they're feeling that they've got actual strategies where they have agency to affect change. So I'm very excited about where we are and where we're going. And I'm going to hand over to Rowan now.
I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the new education resources that we have introduced to the project. We have an aquifer experiment, which is a great way of illustrating to the students how much water limestone absorbs. I believe that this sort of small block, which is probably the size of a house brick, absorbs 1/4 of a litre, I think. Yeah. So that's, well, so we measure, weigh the dry stone and the wet stone. We've got infiltrometers. We've brought a couple of hydroprops, because we were sort of measuring the velocity of the river by dropping ducks or dog biscuits or mushrooms and things like that in. But yeah, it wasn't foolproof, and quite often they'd get sort of stuck in eddies and things like that. So we now have good scientific equipment, which also has its flaws from time to time, but it's good to have the variety of ways of measuring things. Rain gauges, and then we've produced a FSC fresh water guide for younger years in collaboration with the FSC Field Studies Council. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Duke of Edinburgh Award volunteering scheme that we have running at Combe Mill. Because we run so many sessions at Combe Mill, it's great to have the venue, the location up together. So they've been helping to lay wood chips. You can see a photo of them there, moving wood chip to cover some of the very muddy paths. We've been balsam bashing. We asked them to do a little survey to compare the invertebrates and wildlife that they found in the river, comparing it to the pond. So we'll do that periodically so that they can kind of compare the different habitats and across the year. And I'm going to hand over to Jen.
So this year we've been working a lot on really reaching out to our partners and collaborating on various projects. And I think that's been really successful. We've been playing to each other's strengths, and I think we've had some really good outcomes from that. The slide here just illustrates the various partners that we've worked with, but we've also worked with a lot of community groups that don't necessarily, that aren't our partners. As it were, like West Oxfordshire Eco Action Group. And it's really, I think, been overall successful, just going out, meeting with them, talking about river water quality and biodiversity and what the various groups can do. So here we are, we've got the river fly survey. We've been doing some conservation work with the Friends of Wakewell. Earthwatch just did a really good walk with Ann Miller, talking about soil samples. And Ross went and was one of the expert presenters at the Dalesford Festival, talking about outdoor education. We did a well-being walk with CAG, Oxford. We had a very successful source to sewage event working with the Environment Agency, Thames Water and Earthwatch. They were all presenting to the public to discuss water quality issues in Morton and Marsh, and also working with Cotswold wardens on walks. We've mainly been focusing on water quality monitoring, really trying to boost the citizen science. Every single walk we go on now, we do a water quality sample and we explain what we're doing, how easy it is, and how people can get involved. And that's been really, really useful. People like to see that sort of thing in action. I think probably demonstrated firstly, and then they're more open to wanting to volunteer. There have been now 2 sewage facility tours. One was in Milton under Wychwood that was planned by Jan Lund, one of the councillors there, and we supported her in that. And then also WASP has just helped organize one in Morton and Marsh. So in the center of the slide there, you can see the Source to Sewage public event, which I alluded to earlier. That what came before that was just a walk with some of the parish councillors, and we talked about the water there. They're really, really concerned about flooding as well. So it's good to kind of just discuss the issues there. And then from that, we decided to have a public event as well. And this was basically inspired by one of the citizen scientists who was really concerned about sewage in Morton Marsh, and you know, I said to her, what can we do to help? And so we decided on a walk, we decided on the public event. And from that, you know, she has continued to drive that home. That's Sam Frith. She has now got a group of 12 individuals that are meeting monthly to discuss water quality. She's looking at flea and tick treatment and, you know, things like using fairy liquid, and trying to talk to people about what they can do, and also looking at how development is going to impact the water quality in Morton, and also what we can do from the source of the river to impact it further downstream. So that's been really successful and mainly driven by the passion of one citizen scientist. The next one, just a little bit about the kind of campaigns that have kind of come off of our outreach, and also the increase in social media. So we've been trying to get on the various events that we've been doing, get them straight onto social media as quick as we can. And as you can see, there's been a considerable jump both in Facebook and in Instagram. Mind you, we still have a very small following, and that's something that we need to work on boosting up a bit. But we're talking to people also about things like septic tanks, because what we've noticed in Morton Marsh is that there's actually a lot of contamination above Thames, and we need to talk to people above Thames sewage facility treatment plant. So the concern is that maybe that's due to septic tanks leaking or people not using them properly, not emptying them. So we're looking into expanding how to communicate that to people and encourage them to look into their septic systems and potentially you know, get them emptied or whatever. Also, again, the flea and tick treatment, because that's a big problem with invertebrates in the river. And also we've got this postcard campaign to the Prime Minister and MPs about the river and how we can improve that and how people feel about it, you know, what they want from the river, and you know, mainly from children's points of view. So that's been quite successful. Guided walks. So we have done a lot of guided walks, exceeded our milestones yet again. They're really enjoyable, and so we've done several. One was a pool meadow walk in Chipping Norton, talking about the natural flood management that might be done there if there's funding granted. Addressing people's concerns like, you know, will they be able to walk their dogs there, that sort of thing. We did the source to sewage walk with the citizens and parish councils. We did a beaver dams and Clara Sage walk in Chalbury. Most recently, we had a cafe crawl from Bruin to Blenheim. that involved 2 cafe stops. I'm sorry I wasn't there. Sorry, there was also a Bruin stream walk earlier in the year. And we've got an upcoming bat walk in October organized by Rowan. Yep. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
I can do. It's not actually a walk; it's an event by the river. But yes,
they'll have to walk there to get there.
Yes, you have to walk from the car to the river.
Walking won't be involved.
Brilliant. One of our biggest events, our Riverside event for this year, was Earth Day, and it went from very simple ideas to quite a complicated dual opportunity event. It was really 2 events bundled into one. One of them was aimed at citizen scientists, recruiting them, trying to maybe expand the program, and that involved a morning session talking about various issues, and then the afternoon hands-on looking at invertebrate surveys and water quality surveys. And then on the flip side, we had a very popular family-friendly event, which involved rebuilding the dam, working on the leaky dam. There was the local choir came and sang. It was really, really busy. I think one of the other highlights actually was going on a walk and looking for critters and slow worms and things like that. And that was a big, big success. People really enjoyed seeing those things.
So in terms of fairs and festivals, we have attended the Witchwood Forest Fair and the Riverside Festival at Charlbury. Last year they were both on the same day or same weekend, which proved a bit of an issue, particularly as I came down with COVID that weekend. So it was a lot less stressful this year in terms of they weren't on the same day, and we had a full team of staff. So that the Riverside was particularly large event in that we collaborated with Nature Restoration Group in Charlbury, the council in Charlbury, Earthwatch, and Wild Ox. So that was a big, and Cotswold Wardens. Coombe Mill Wildlife Day was very pleasant, interacting with sort of local families and visitors. Dalesford Festival was one that we hadn't done before, and I think we would do again. That was, we reached a lot of people, and as Jen mentioned before, Ross was on the panel there as well, so that was a successful day. So some of the resources that we take to fairs, so Ros and I have created a river game, leading on from a fabulous hedgerow game that Rhiannon, I believe, at Wild Ox designed. So we have created one about the river, which is a really great way of informing and educating children and their families about lots of different issues to do with the river, but in a really fun and playful way. So they sort of learn without really learning. So yeah, if you write to your local MP about that, you can move forward 4 places. If there's a sewage spill, you have to go back to the beginning. There's all sorts of things. So I'd be happy to share it with you if you wanted to have a look at that. We talk about different pollutants, such as regular household things that people often don't realise how damaging they can be to aquatic life. So we talk to people about that. We have some lovely sort of hands-on games, such as tracks and sign, little discs. We talk about the 3 Ps, which for those of you, maybe you all know, but so the 3 things that you can put down the toilet that all begin with P, and all the other things that you can't put down the toilet. In fact, there are 4, but I'll leave you to work out what the 4th is. We had a very kind volunteer who created, I had a plastic water wheel model, and then a Cotswold warden very kindly built it up into this fabulous kind of wooden model. So it's a great way of talking to people about the work that we do. It's a water wheel that sort of shows how sawmills work. And Coombe Mill, one of our venues, is a sawmill. So it's a great way of kind of linking in conversations about where we work and traditional uses of rivers, how whole civilization has been based around rivers and things like that. So it's a great way of linking into kind of the history and culture of rivers. We also have a fabulous beaver puppet and an otter puppet, which are very popular.
So looking ahead, we've got some great opportunities that we're working on for community outreach. Continue to work on the social media, building that digital legacy of what we have done, and also using that as an opportunity to educate people on what they can do and what the actual issues are with the river, and also growing the campaigns like the flea and tick treatments, that sort of thing. We want to support more communities into building community action. That involves the reaching out to the community groups, the nature groups, eco groups, that sort of thing. Creating and developing a parish cluster to encourage local government action, to try and educate, I guess, and inspire those local communities to what they can do within their own areas, and working with Owen on that one. And sorry, actually, if I can just interject and say that I think the partnership is really, really important here. And I think a lot of the success is down to working quite closely with Owen and Soraya on these campaigns and on the education outreach and the various citizen science events that have been going forward. I think that's really been overall the best success that we've had with the community outreach, because none of us could really do this, I think, very well on our own. So we play to each other's strengths, and I think that's quite important. So I think with Soraya, we've been talking about developing a citizen science lecture event so that the citizen scientists can all come together, maybe once a year or twice a year, listening to someone lecture about something of environmental interest to them that's relative to the river, and just giving them an opportunity to talk about their community, their areas that they're looking at, and to network with other citizen scientists. We're going to be continuing to do presentation outreach to communities. We've got one coming up with a local nature community. We've reached out to the WI as well, and Ross presented to them recently. So trying to take our slideshow on the road, as it were, and talk about the ECP, what we're doing, what communities and groups can do to improve their local environments. I have an elusive podcast that I think people have been very interested in seeing come off the ground, but due to the amount of delivery that we have had, they're just in a 3-day week has not been near enough time to broach that. So I'm hoping for a little bit of quieter winter season to start developing that further, and that will create a digital legacy that once the project is complete, people can look back on and say this is what was happening in 23, 24, 25 with the rivers and communities, and hopefully become a historical piece of interest. We want to explore the opportunity of getting more kids into the DAV from less represented areas, continue to widen the network and develop relationships with less represented groups. I think that's something that we really need to focus on in the next year. Trying to get people maybe with special needs into the river and that sort of a thing. We want to continue to create opportunities for citizen scientists to develop their skills. And obviously people have different areas of interest. Some people want to test water, some people want to look at insects, and trying to support them as best we possibly can to expand their education and what they can do to help gather data, I think, on the river health and biodiversity. We have, of course, next year another River Day to organize, currently looking at doing that in Stonesfield, and also expanding on the River Cleanup Initiative. We did a big paddle recce this last year and cleaned up a little bit of the river at Chalbury, but looking at whether or not we can expand that to communities along the Evenlode to have a couple of days where people are actually getting out there and cleaning up their local patch. All right. So that is the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them.
Brilliant. Well, that's absolutely fantastic. I really struck myself by sort of how you've gained such traction from when it first started. So, all those links that you've been working hard are all absolutely paying off. And the amount of delivery that you're doing is absolutely remarkable. So yeah, well done. Some really exciting stuff in there. Very impressed. Questions? I've got a couple, but others please shout off. Stephen and then Anne.
I also wanted to second Nick's brilliant, absolute brilliant work. This is really heartwarming and great to see integration that you guys and Soraya are doing to satisfy both the scientific gaps of getting citizen scientists in the place where we don't have citizen scientists or EA monitoring, and also just to get it out there. One thought came up along your really brilliant presentation. Actually, two thoughts. One, for schools, we've done several programs where it wasn't a one-off. We had the school set up a project where they went off and did regular monitoring, regular meaning seasonal, and then put that information together showing the seasonal changes in water quality or whatever, as a kind of a report, a scientific type report, which is really good from many points of view, from the scientific method, from everything else. You might have already thought of that, but if you haven't,
Stephen, it's lovely that you're encouraging that, because I've just gone over to Royal Docks and sat down with Owen to really work out how we're going to sign up more schools for citizen science. We have our first one, which is Enstone, and we're going to encourage them not only to go and do their water quality once a month, actually go down to the river, but look at data coming in, and hopefully in registration period, and we need to have some conversations around that with their primary teachers, actually record a graph so they can see the seasonal change literally day by day, various things going on in the river, so that they're engaging with the river every morning of their school day. So we are really hoping to increase that sense that we're not just going for one, and sometimes we have we do a 3-session program, but that once we've got them on board, we then encourage them to put it into their program across the whole year.
Brilliant.
So we're developing resources, and we've also had A-level students decide to do water quality for their they have to write an independent research project, and 2 of the students at Kingham Hills School have chosen to do water quality on the back of a catchment tour that I did with that school. So we're absolutely delighted with that. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, no, and if you can introduce the whole idea of like a scientific hypothesis, so if they use hypothesis-based approach within the project, even at the elementary school level, it brings a whole scientific method to life, and we found that's been incredibly powerful. As they have a suspected problem, what are they have maybe more than one place where they're monitoring, and there's a reason why they selected these places. You can do a lot of stuff with it, and having them produce the graphs is brilliant, because then we've actually had different groups look at different aspects, different contaminants, and each one produces a report and a presentation that could be made at a public event. We've had it actually done at public events where children are showing what they've learned, and it's as a scientist, it helps bring in new scientists. So we're kind of sowing the seeds for future science, which is badly needed. So the other thought, and I'm taking way too much time, sorry, Ann, is that this weekend is the Blitz. So I'm not sure how much you've coordinated along with that, but this would be also through all these events throughout the summer. It would be really good to sign up people to the Blitz, so that when we do have an Evenlode wide Blitz, we get as many people as possible, because it doesn't have a cost to them, and again, bringing more people who actively have to do things on the river goes along exactly what you're doing. But anyway, fabulous work. Really, really happy to see this happening.
We've got the Bliss on social media already, trying to recruit people, and I think I spoke to, I think Soraya and I have bounced emails back and forth about what we might be able to do. We just need to touch base on that again.
Yeah, no, great.
As well,
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Stephen. Anne.
Thank you. Yes, I'd also like to say how fantastic is all the work you've done, and it's really thrilling to see how the partnership are really working together now rather than separate silos. So I'm really pleased with that. Thank you very, very much. Excellent work. The question I had, actually, because I'm thinking about our going forward after March 25, when we don't have any guaranteed funding. Do you think that you would be able to actually charge for these sessions? Because I think schools are getting so much out of it, especially if they're reducing their transport costs. Can we start making a charge, do you think, to keep it sustainable?
And we're already on that. I'll send you the document that I put together. This last year, we've been charging schools £50, which doesn't represent anything like delivery costs, but we are saving that money in a pot. So, and we need to have saved enough of it to be able to offer to disadvantaged schools. So we will use the money towards coach fees for FSM, free school meal heavy schools in deprived areas. And what we're planning to do is build that. So £75 this year and going forward. So we're building the cost gradually, so that schools are sort of getting the idea that teaching doesn't come for free, and if it's being staffed and resourced. So clearly we have a lot of expensive equipment, things like the hydro props at £120 each. And so Thames Water Funding has allowed us to buy some really fantastic resources. So I hope that we're going to gradually and gently introduce schools to the fact that the sessions need to be paid for. I will send you the document after this meeting.
Oh, that's brilliant news. Well done. Thank you so much.
Tim.
Slightly continuation of Anne's question. It's amazing what you've done, and an absolutely brilliant partnership working, and very keen not to reinvent wheels as we try and address the stakeholder engagement and public access parts of landscape recovery for the next 20 years. It would, I don't know how much you've been speaking to Caroline at the moment, because she's got a lot of distractions on her plate at the moment, but it would be great. I've asked her to get in touch if you could share that presentation with her, and we'll pop it into the landscape recovery project development. And Anne, we'll pick up on it on next week, hopefully, if we can pin that time down. That would be great.
And just to come in, Tim and I and a whole group of other people are now also busy working on an outdoor learning network, and we've got our next meeting is at Blenheim Palace, so we're linking in with Boone Norton, who is running their education programme. So we're going out to the sort of wider outdoor learning education network and really building strong links there too.
Cool. Couple of questions from me. I don't see anyone else has got their hand up. It's not directly related to the water, but my ears pricked up when you were talking about the travel costs and the carbon, and thinking back to the county council and the county council as sort of education authority, their interest in reducing carbon, whether there are opportunities to push that, you know, we're saving you money, we're saving you carbon thing, say for example with the climate team in the county council. It's just another way of showing you know, where the partnership and its activities are delivering benefits in unexpected ways. I don't think it would necessarily lead to anything dramatic, but it's my recollection was that the team is always looking to report on examples of where the county, through its activities and its partners, are reducing their carbon impacts, and you know, they might well be pleased to flag that up.
Nick, that's a great idea. Really good idea, and I will action that.
Yeah, so if I can provide you links if you need links as to who to send that to. Yeah,
please, that would be great.
Okay. The other thing that caught my ear was the catchment tour. Now I'm not sure I quite understood exactly what it is, but it sounded like something that I thought, oh, that sounds fun. I'd like to do that. Is that a thing which can be packaged up for, you know, members of the public to
adults? Absolutely, yes. Or they're, you know, people who are on the call now, it would be very possible for me to organise a day. Different schools, so I give them a number of locations. So one of the locations we often go to is the Little Stock Brook NFM scheme at Bruin. We go to Farm Ed and have a look at what they're doing there and talk clearly. They're doing a lot on soil management. They've got their NFM scheme as well. And it's a fantastic place actually, because you've got amazing views of the Evenlode Valley there. And then we go to Coombe and we tour through. The brilliant thing about Coombe, truly brilliant thing about Coombe, is within an hour you can walk through 4 or 5 different habitats. You've got the river habitat, you've got meadow habitat, you go past the pond, then you go up into a coniferous plantation, then you're in a native oak standard and hazel coppice woodland, and then you come into the vista that I showed you the photograph of that looks over, and then I can talk about the paleo channels, because there was a big flood event which carved out a lot of the topsoil, revealing the extent of the ancient riverbed. So there's just masses to talk about there. There's a Toofer Spring. I mean, it's just a really exciting place, and you can do it all on foot, not crossing any roads, never getting in a coach. And so we always put Coombe at the end of the tour, so that you know. And I'd be really happy, Nick, if you are excited by that. You hear I'm excited by it. I'd love to organise for people to come and we could go around, and then we could think about how we might do tours for adult groups as well. You know, I've been developing this over the last year, and actually I've been going on catchment tours. We went to the Kennet for our national AOMB conference, so I'm deliberately going on other people's catchment tours to see how they're doing
How
it.
they're doing it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Could they be made?
Farmers talking, which was great. So yeah,
could they be
really.
made self-guided as well? Sort of.
So eventually, that's exactly what I'm hoping to start on this winter, is producing some sort of map that would have pointers on it, on an ordnance survey map, which would then link in to what the content of that location might give you. So you'd see it, and then people could choose which locations across the catchment they wanted to visit and know what they would see were they to go there with photographs and sort of bullet points on points of interest.
Hashtag QR codes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, clearly the QR codes are now in at Farm Ed. I think they've got 15, and the Ponsonbys are busy putting in ones at Sarston Glebe Farm. So the QR code, you know, those posts are going in across our area and could also be on the map.
Cool. Very good. Anne, did you want to follow up on that, or was that?
Yes,
separate?
thank you. No, it's just to say that could you liaise with Rhiannon, because obviously she's doing this as well and looking into the QR codes and what have you, and photo mounts. So do work together to produce these. That would be great.
Cool. Great job. Okay, well, if I can bring this one to a close, then thank you very much. Again, just to reiterate, brilliant work. You can tell everyone's enthused by it. Yeah, we just look forward to seeing how it develops in the future. Great job. Well done.
Thank you.
Anne, I think looking at the next couple of items then,
Yes.
that we've got to talk about.